And we are back. It is Friday afternoon. It is 5 minutes past 4. Good evening and happy Friday.
Happy Friday!
Good
It's amazing.
afternoon. Um, oh my god. Here we are, Friday 4 p.m. It's not Cracker Jack. Hello, Eddie.
Hello, Mum Brown.
And hello, Auntie Val. And in the words of Gandalf the Grey, a wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
We do indeed. We are here exactly when we're meant to be.
Bonjour, chérie Anne. Bonjour. You've got to have this one.
Oh dear.
Hello, Kazza. How you
Hi,
doing?
Kaz. Where was the Kazza countdown? That's why it's 5 past. I've just gone.
Yeah, we're totally putting this one on you, darling.
And Mama Brown loves your jumper.
I've got to tell you a story about the jumper. I've only had it a few hours. Mother delivered it this morning. It's made by Mama B.
Oh wow! I do love it. I do love it.
Bless him. Thanks, Mum.
Daniel.
You're all right, buddy.
Bud.
And apparently we've won a pencil.
Oh.
I didn't know they had pencils.
No.
Oh. We haven't, literally, we haven't had the countdown, my darling.
No.
We never got your countdown, Sweet Pea. I don't know what happened there. In actual fact, let's have a bum. Literally not there. We need to have a word with Facebook and YouTube.
Yes. Yes.
We do. Hello to Karen Stubbs. Hello, Karen. How you doing, darling?
Fabulous. Oh, yes. Yes. 3 and you're out.
Loves the nails, Tony Bo. Loves
Oh.
the nails.
Yes.
They are gorgeous.
With the butterflies on.
Well, hey, quite right too.
And I'm bored with the butterflies already, so I think they may be coming off over the next couple of days.
I'll be surprised, dear. I'll be surprised.
Oh, Mama Brown saw a countdown. The Kazza countdown in the comments, Linda.
And I gotta say, Kazza has actually sent me the countdown.
Oh.
But it's not come through darling, it hasn't come through my end.
No, nor mine.
That's one for the blooper reel for Christmas. Yes, we shall have to investigate that. We shall have to investigate.
Yes.
And hello to Jay. Hello, Jay.
Hi, Jay. Came first in the dressage the other week. Did Jay?
Oh,
yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Wayne Earl. Hello,
Hello, buddy.
Ooh.
And we're being told off by Eddie.
Absolutely. Hello, Reverend Ashley Oliver. Hoi. And yes, definitely being told off. Yes. And being given some advice as well by the lovely Kazza.
Yes.
Very, very much so. Very, very much so. So yes, we will investigate that. We will investigate that. But welcome along, everyone. The two Revs are back in town. We are literally riding again. Um, Tony has butterflies on his fingers and bells on his toes, and he's already get sick of them and changing them. Um, a lot's gone on in our time since we have been together last,
Yeah.
both locally and in the world as a whole. Um, and of course, the remit of our time together is the same as ever. A light-hearted, uplifting, deep and meaningful of the world, philosophy, and spirit. If there's something that's a burning question in your mind and you want to ask about it, talk about it, that's what we're here for. We are here to debate, to discuss, to explore thought in a friendly, uplifting, polite, and compassionate way. Um, Entitlement to opinion is essential in this way of life, but equally responsibility for those opinions matters just as much. And so, therefore, be kind, compassionate, and genteel with each other, because you build bridges by working together, not setting fire to the pieces behind you as you walk across them. So, in that score, enjoy your time together, engage with each other as much as you do us. But we really are here to discuss everything. And there is there is very few, I shall say, limits to what we will discuss or how we will discuss it, as the blooper reel tells you.
Yes. I always say, a friend, Claire, with twin boys, when they started asking more in-depth questions of life, Michael and I asked how she would like us to answer, and she said, if they're old enough to ask the question, they're old enough for an age-appropriate answer. Same goes for you guys. If you want to ask the question, you can ask it. You, as all things with spirit, you may not get the answer you want, but you will always get the answer you need.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I totally agree. I actually totally agree. And to be honest with you, we've got two really, really, really cool questions.
What the?
I am going to star them both,
Yes.
because I think they will probably keep us going. And I don't want to miss either of them because they're really, really cool. So, which one do you reckon we will start with, young man?
I think let's talk about Ashley's question, because
Absolutely.
I was quite relieved when I'd looked at the profile of all Ashley's question. In case you can't see it, oh, it's there.
Is there?
We've been worn out with conclave talk. Interesting how it's generated so much debate from people of all faiths and none. I was quite concerned when I saw the profiles of some of the candidates, but I think it was an interesting choice. He's very centrist from what I can gather. So I think he's going to bring a balance again. Obviously, with his position, he's not going to be able to please everybody. And he may do things which we sort of take a sharp intake of breath as we see it. But I think it's still a step in a positive direction to stay on that centrist line rather than veering a little bit more off to the right.
Absolutely. You know what? I totally agree, and I'll be honest with you. Cherry, who's watching, lives in a country that is very, very, shall we say, involved in the Catholic side. So, if it was going to affect anybody on a day to day level, then the potential would be there. We spoke about it at length, and she, shall we say, encouragingly invited me to engage regarding sending out prayers and thoughts and upliftment, which is why we ended up with what we have done, which will continue for the full 7 days. The honest truth is, although, frankly, unless you're a Catholic, it's not really any of your business, and I include myself in that, to decide. That's not the full part of the story, because when you've got an organization that represents faith, that represents 1.4 billion people around the earth, it is going to have an impact on your life in some way. Whether you are faithful, non-faithful, Catholic, non-Catholic, it's going to have an impact. And I think the positive side of that is just how much of an outpouring of love and compassion there was for Pope Francis. You know, I said right from the very get-go of when he passed, look, there were some things that he said that did concern me, but no one throughout all of history had gone as far as he had to build bridges and make, inroads, and give compassion to marginalized peoples and communities. And it wasn't until he passed that we started learning more and more and more. For instance, the reason he chose the name Francis, based on Francis of Assisi, a pope chooses their name. They've got literally 5 minutes from "I'm going to be the pope for sure" to "my name is going to be." That's literally all they've got. And so apparently he stood there having been elected, and he'd obviously had thoughts through. You, let's be honest. Everyone who's in that room will have thinking, if it's me, what would I choose? If it's me, what would I choose? And it turns out that as he stood there waiting, some cardinal kind of like bashed him in the shoulder and said, "Don't forget the poor." And in that moment, the name Francis came. Obviously, Cardinal Robert has chosen the name Leo the 14th. Leo the 13th, who he's named himself after, was a social justice champion. In actual fact, I was reading earlier on, basically Leo the 14th is the source of workers' rights in the world. Wow. What a name to live up to. And yes, again with Pope Leo, there are some things I've read. It's like okay, but you've got to realize that you can't have everything. And I think this is the problem. My honest opinion, and this is what I think. And you guys at home, tell me if I'm wrong. Tony, I know you certainly will. I think the problem that we've got is in this day and age, we all want our cake the way we want it and eat it, and everyone to eat our cake the way we want to eat it as well. And we can't do that. We have to accept that there is give, there is take, there is concession, there is movement. What I will say is it could have been so much worse. And if you look deeper into the choice, the message that the Cardinals are trying to send out was just as interested in the choosing as in his choosing of his name. If you look at who he is and what he represents, it is a continuation of the work of Pope Francis.
Yeah.
And I think that can only, please God, be a good thing. And when he is the representative of 1.4 billion faithful people, and there are 8 billion people on the planet, that's a guy with power. He is going to touch your life in some way. So it needed to be a continuation of that exploration. I mean, everyone knows that numbers of faithful have been dropping.
Yeah.
You can only look around. The number of people that are of faith has been dropping, and yet all we ever hear is, at the time of Pope Francis's pontification, 1.2 billion Catholics. What do we hear now? 1.4 billion Catholics. So he was obviously doing something right and something different. And what was that? He was down to earth, he was honest, and he was compassionate. And please God, let me be right. I think they've made a good choice. And certainly I was the same as you. You look at the potential options, like, ooh, where is this going to go? And I have to say, well, Cardinals.
Yeah.
Really well done, Cardinals. It is a step that could have been so much worse, in my opinion. In my
Me
opinion,
too. I did.
someone like me, anyway.
It could. I did think when I was looking at the potentials and thinking this could be a bit spicy,
Yeah,
but there we are. Ashley's just said, I'm hopeful. I was moved to see the previous Pope in his casket with normal working shoes on, not purple slippers. Yeah, he was just a guy.
yeah. And in actual fact, if you look at the whole of his, I mean, in absolute honour and respect to Pope Francis, his and no disrespect to Pope Benedict. Benedict was buried in a casket that was heavily lined and extremely structured and cost about 16 grand.
Yeah.
And, you know, Francis might as well have been a pauper. In actual fact, he was. He had around about $100 worth of money left in his name when he passed. His salary he gave directly back to the church and instructed it to be used to give charitably to the poor and the needy. You know, I mean, let's face it, who actually, when they get the board and lodgings paid for, needs $32,000 a year? A month, sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, you know, he kept an average of about 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, that is representative of what his mission was. Choosing
Yeah.
someone like Francis of Assisi as a namesake, the absolute original, you know, champion of the poor. So to see the name Leo come up was, yeah, you know what? Wayne, I apologise, but I'm not on a diet. I will talk about cake. And you know what? Again, Eddie, yeah, me too. But it's all about, you know, living. Oh, I know where this is going. Sorry. Living up to the standards that you preach, practicing what you preach. And regardless of whether we are involved in any particular organization or not, people don't always see that. I mean, I've been referred to as father when I'm out wearing my collar because people do not see me as Church of England or Christian spiritualist. It's like, oh, he must be a Catholic, is wearing purple. You know, when the Church of England do wear purple, but they've never associated me with Church of England. They've associated me with Catholic, and therefore, it is, you know, a really important thing to recognise that people don't always see the appropriate boundaries or organisational structures. But additionally, you know, it reminds us that we must practice what we preach, you know, and whatever we say will represent what we preach, and whatever we do will represent what we preach, whether we mean it to or not. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it's a really hard line to walk. Being in ministry, there are things that you would like to say and want to say, and sometimes you have to just take a step back and say, okay, maybe I should think about how I word that one and come back to it later.
Yes, absolutely. When this is why it took me so long to come round to the idea that yes, I would undergo ordination, because I don't want to. It's not about the collar. It's not about the reverend. It's not about that. It's about helping people. And that comes with a heavy responsibility, which is sort of bringing us round into Kaz's question.
Absolutely, over into the start list.
Everything we say, if we associate ourselves with a church or a spiritualist centre in whatever capacity, what you say reflects back onto that organisation. And you have to be very careful because there are things that wind me up, and I think I'm going to hit Facebook with that, and then I think actually no, because these people and you've got to strike that balance between doing good things and preaching good things, but also being human.
Yes.
And yes, we have these thoughts and we have these feelings, but you've got to sort of take a deep breath and think what's appropriate. And what I always think when I'm going to go to Facebook, I always think, would I say this off a rostrum?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't say it off a rostrum, you've got no point saying it on Facebook under your mine's Tony Swindle's Medium, Reverend Nick Brown. People know you're ordained, they know that, and they take those things as, even if you're saying it off a private Facebook page, they're seeing it as coming from somebody who is in that position. And that's very important to remember, because I've said it on Facebook, we are all born of one spirit. And you know, whatever you put out there about anybody, any minority, anything, reflects on your faith if you're in that position. And Kaza, it's an interesting ride, love. Let me tell you.
And it's not always the smoothest.
It isn't. But
can I be honest? I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Because I've said this about being a medium, but it's the same thing being a minister. I think if you scratch the surface of anybody who wants to undertake ministry, you will find somebody who's a little bit damaged and has some scars here and there.
Yeah.
Because to minister to people, you have to try and understand their situation, try and understand what they're going through, I don't like empathize and sympathize, but they're the only ones I can think of at the minute. Yeah. But you have to. And I think if you've gone through some SH1T in your life, you will appreciate that more. And I would never say to anybody, I know how you feel, because I don't. Even if you've gone through the same SH1T as me, I don't know how you feel right now, but I can try and understand, and I can try and help you to a path where you feel more comfortable and more safe. But think about it, Kaza. Think about it. Talk to us about it. I wasn't saying you can't, Sherry Ann. I wasn't saying you can't.
But it is a fair comment.
It is, but you look back on your life, and you will have had times in your life where there's been struggle, where there's been grief, where there's been emotional damage, where there's been nobody lives a perfect life. Nobody. And everything, when I look back now on all the stuff I've been through, I think when I'm talking to an individual in a church, or when I'm talking to somebody just out for a walk and they're unloading a load of stuff and obviously wanting to vent and to receive ministry, I look and think, that's why that happened to me. So I could help this here person here right now.
And I've got to tell you, that's exactly the conversation I was having with Cherry a couple of weeks ago. In fact, those three young ladies that work together on a Wednesday afternoon, Cherry, Jen, and Trace, we were talking, and they were basically drawing the same conclusions. You know, you need to be able to resonate with that situation in order to be able to be practical about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of vital. And as there's some really, really lovely comments that resonate with that in terms of, you know, I've got to say, wonderfully so. I've gone through plenty of SH1T in my life, and then Mama B counters, but scars can heal. And Cherry's response, many, that helps me to understand those are in crisis. And then another lovely comment here from the lovely Eddie. I wouldn't change my scars, or physical or otherwise. They have made me who I am. And I
Bingo.
think that is absolutely it. When you turn a difficulty into a positive, when you turn a difficulty into a victory, you are then able to help people do the same.
Yeah.
And that is regardless of whether you've got a letters after your name, a PhD, an MD, anything like that. Pieces of fairy liquid bottle cut up and chucked around your neck. You are ministering. You
Yeah.
know, but I'm reminded actually, Joyce Gabet. Now, there's a name I haven't said in a while. A powerhouse of a medium. She, you know, she is exactly as her name sounded. She was a lady. When I knew her, she was in her late 50s. She was a relatively short, very, very powerful, strong-willed, determined lady with a scowl for every situation, but a heart that melted you. And I was about 18 when I first met her, and I'd been in the church about 6 months and was already chairing and sitting in development. And she goes, "So how long have you been in this way of life, Nick?" And I went, "Well, about 6 months. But I suppose I've been seeing spirit all my life. But certainly in terms of this way of life, about 6 months." She goes, "You know, it takes years and years and years to develop to be a good medium." And I took offense to that because I didn't listen to what she said. She wasn't saying that it takes years and years and years to develop to be a medium. She was saying it takes years and years and years to develop to be a good medium. And she was talking about life experience because a few years later, I ended up being president of that church. And she came back and I was chairing for her again. And she goes, "Can I ask you, Nick, what are your intentions regarding spiritualism?" To be honest with you, it sounded like she was interviewing me in terms of her daughter. You know, what are your intentions with my daughter or my son? And I said, well, I want to get on used to doing what I'm doing now as president. I've only been, recently established. I want to work on that and get used to it. But I suppose down the road one day I'd like to be a minister. And she turned and suddenly her face softened. And she placed her hand on my shoulder, and I will never forget the look in her eye. And she said, "Oh, but my dear, you're the president of your church. You're already a minister." And everything then fell into place. Everybody has the potential to minister to each other, because to minister is to administer, to give and to aid and to serve and to help. So we all have that potential. So no, it doesn't have to be formal, as you was asking, Kaza. It can be in other ways. But what I would say is take your life experience, take those challenges that Tony has been talking about, and what you have learnt from them, share with others, and then others, and then with others, and take those difficulties that you have faced and make them worth something special by providing comfort and support and upliftment to your fellow brothers and sisters of the human family. That, for me, at the end of the day, is ministry. And I really ought to put my glasses on and read what people are saying, but I couldn't really see from that
There's a
distance.
lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff.
Where are we?
Eunice, Eunice, ministry for me means caring, understanding, accepting that no two people are the same. took a long time to decide. It's not easy, but it's rewarding. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bear with. Do you want to read that out just in case people can't hear it, and I'll just reply to something.
Yeah. I think because I've gone through so much, I understand people when they just want to talk or even not talk. That's important, Kaza. That those two words there, or not talk, are very important, because I've sat with people at some of the darkest times of their lives, and there's been a silence for about 20 minutes. And that's fine. That's as important as all the talking. But no, someone is sitting opposite them that cares and are prepared to sit there for hours and hours so they never feel alone. Just that.
That there is ministry.
Just that there.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with you, mate. Absolutely agree with you, mate. Mama B says, hello, Mum. I think when you've been through a bad time in your life, it helps you to understand how to help others. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And oh, yes, Ashley.
I love the fact that when it comes up on the screen, it's actually nicely organised into paragraphs.
Yeah.
And it also hides my gob so I can sit here and not blow off the screen for a minute, you know. Maybe this is why there is a resurgence in faith conversations when the leaders and figureheads or people called to ministry are able to walk a mile in human shoes. The humanness is speaking to people. I love that you have so much diversity in your ministry body, Nick and Tony. Lots of different types of shoes. You know what? That is one of the things that I think I know I am, and I'm sure Tony is very, very proud of.
Yeah.
The diversity of people.
Yeah. More.
There we go. That right there.
Yeah.
Kaza does do a lot of writing, and it's beautiful.
The piece she read when I chaired was amazing.
Yes.
Was amazing. Yes, it was.
And I think well remembered and well pointed out, because this is something that matters. It was about something that was very current, very present, very real, very in people's lives. And I think that's where ministry and certain types of faith tend to go wrong, because it's very, very easy, and I do it myself all the time, I'm not going to deny it, to go off on a tangent about a concept without associating it to something real. You know, one of the reasons why Christianity exists is because Joshua Josephson, 2,000 years ago, he took scripture and made it current. He told stories that we now call parables, but he took those concepts from scripture and made them current, made them now, made them real. And I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes leaving them in the language that they were then does not do justice to what he was doing.
No.
Because he was making ministry current and real and in the present day. And for that, that's exactly what Kaza is doing with her work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know people have messaged me about what she spoke about in that reading, and said it was what they needed to hear. I'd spotted that. Yeah. I hadn't realized, but yeah. So it is important, and to be able to talk about subjects that matter to people in sometimes some quite plain language is important as well.
Yeah.
There's no point in using $5,000 words and people going, what's he talking about? You know,
Yeah.
Talk to people in language they understand, and talk about the topics that matter to them.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something that I'm not going to name names, but there are candidates that have come to me about ordination and ministry. And I've thought, no, because you jump on a bandwagon. So if there's a popular train of thought going on TikTok or whatever, they're on there and they can't stand up and say, actually, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, to be able to not only walk in someone else's shoes, but actually have the courage of conviction of walking in your own shoes.
Yeah.
Even when it is lonely. I know this is going to resonate with so many people. Even when you are the only one walking that walk in that current moment, sometimes that is the most important time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the world in which we live right now, where there is so much division, so much separation, and this constant, and I know I've talked about this before, but this constant pull of forces pulling us to the left and pulling us to the right, to be able to actually critically look at something and say, no, I disagree with both sides. There is a central solution. This is why I actually think it's wonderful having a centrist as a pope, because when you are walking that middle path, you can understand both sides of the argument. Oh, hello.
Your mum can't hear. Everybody else seems to be able to.
Check the volume, love. Check the volume. Go out and come back in, darling. You know, so in terms of that constant pull of that pendulum, you have to be able to walk through it without being pulled and have the courage of your own convictions. That's not just about ministry, that's about life. What I will say is Kaz's question of, I hope my words have an impact on people. Well, let's just put it in perspective with a comment that's been shared on this screen today. Someone all the way in France believes that that's what you do in your writing, which means you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your words have been heard in a completely different country, and they resonated with Cherry. You know that.
Yeah, just look back at the comments that came up when you were reading it on that Sunday afternoon, Kaza.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, hello, Tracy. Sometimes people just need someone there. Again, that is ministry. You don't have to have an opinion sometimes. Just sit there and listen, because don't you? I don't know about you, but when I'm in a quandary, when I'm frustrated, when I'm in a tizzy, or when I just really am confused, blurting it out and letting it out to the world, in the process of letting it out, I answer my own questions.
Yeah.
You know, there's an old saying that I used to use when I worked in retail. Sometimes you've got to vocalize to rationalize. Just having somebody there to help you with that is enough. Tracy also said, you come out stronger and more understandable, and you can only truly understand if you go through it. Absolutely. And here's the thing, though, no, as Tony said earlier, not every situation is directly translatable, because we all react differently to different things. You know, for instance, I could experience virtually the same thing as Tony, and it might affect me in a different way to how it would Tony, and vice versa. We all react differently, but if you actually have at least a minimal understanding of that thing called life, there is something that you can tune to that situation and bring yourself closer to an understanding. And I think so long as we accept that life is the biggest lesson, the biggest, you know, as Dad used to say, the university of life, there ain't no degree better than that.
No, it's amazing. It is. You've got to live your life. And the thing is, there are times when a situation may happen and it puts you on your backside, but you can sit there and lick your wounds, or you can get up. And I mean, I heard somebody speaking the other day, and she'd gone through a really, really, really rough time in her life. Her husband had gambled away their every possession they had in the house even gone. They were mortgaged to the hilt. They were in debt up to their eyeballs. And she wrote a book about it, which I won't promote on here, but I will put a link in the thing because I can't remember the title off the top of my head. And she fell onto the floor and was sobbing and crying. And she was there for about 2 hours, she said. And she said, I'd stopped crying and I thought, I'm not spending my life sat on the floor. I want to go and sit on the couch. So she crawled over to the couch and sat on the couch. And she said, sometimes in life, you just have to make a decision to go and sit on the couch. And that's all you can do in that moment. But you have to make a decision about your life situation and decide you're either going to live in it or you're going to change it.
Yeah.
And she's a very wise lady, and she's a lovely lady, and we work with her a lot, and she's doing some wonderful works at the minute. And her book is How to Wear a Silver Lining. I've just remembered.
Fantastic.
How to Wear a Silver Lining. It's a really,
I love that.
yeah.
What a wonderful image it evokes in your head, though. How to wear a silver lining.
Yeah. And there are times when the only energy you've got is to get up off the floor and sit on the couch.
Yeah. And in actual fact, one thing that I suppose I have phrases that I tend to repeat a lot. I can't help it, mate. One of my favourite go-tos is you are not measured by how tall you are in times of ease. You are measured by how tall you are when you've been through it and pulled yourself back up again. That's how you are measured as a person. It's easy to stand tall when life's going well, but to drag yourself out of the doldrums, get back on your own 2 feet or back on the couch, to stand up again, that's when the measure of who you are is made.
And the important thing to remember about that is you've made that choice.
Yes.
You yourself had made that choice to get up off the floor and go and sit on the couch under a blanket. And that's important. There's always something you can do. There is always something you can do, even if it is, I need to talk to Nick. I've had a really crappy few days. I need to talk to Nick, or I need to talk to Tony, or I need somebody.
And we do that for each other, don't we?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
Can I have a word? I need a rant. And sometimes, you know, the other one is just completely dead quiet. It's, how's that feel now?
Yeah.
Yeah, better, mate. Thank you. Yeah. And sometimes that's all you need.
And like you said, by articulating, you start to process and you start to work out your own solution to the problem that's happening.
I want to come to Ashley, and then I want to call somebody out. It's funny, really. Ashley says, ironically, this is why I chose independent ministry, because I couldn't find anywhere that felt like home. Obviously, I didn't know you lovely folks then. Do you know what? The truth is, whenever people talk about Ashley, because Ashley was the one who dragged my backside screaming and kicking onto the internet during the pandemic. She did these wonderful, and you know why I resonated with this. She did these wonderful philosophical services.
I remember.
And they were so refreshing, and it was something different because everyone was focused on the mediumship, and Ashley recognised it. But once Ashley was ordained, it was never a case of Reverend Ashley Oliver from that other group. It was always, Reverend Ashley, she's one of us. It doesn't matter what organisation that you became ordained into. Yes, you didn't know we existed, and you took your own path, which is exactly what people should do. But I've never really seen that boundary. It's always, oh yeah, Ashley, she's definitely one of us. Even though you're in a different organisation, you are a compassionate person who gives a stuff about people and about spreading that message of upliftment and love. So as far as I'm concerned, you are as much a member of the Independent Spiritualist Alliance as I am, because that's how we, I hope, are. And I've always thought of you as one of the family, Ashley, and you always will be in my eyes. But speaking of people who learn and grow and drag themselves up, I just want to say hello to the wonderful Diane Boothby. Hello, darling. A champion, that lady is, who's raised a lot of money for good causes and is getting a little bit of acknowledgement for it as well.
Good. That's important.
She's off to see the king. So yeah, sorry, I know you was going to come back on the Ashley bit, but I just needed, before I forgot, to mention Diane.
That's fine. I was just trying to look through the comments again because while we were talking, a lot went up and I missed them.
Yeah.
Tracy Oxbridge, it helps and it heals yourself speaking and articulating. I think that was in relation to.
Yes, absolutely. Life is a learning curve, just have to move on and learn. By Ashley replying to Kaza, your lips to the ears of the divine. Already happening, I'm sure, absolutely. And of course, see, hello, Chrissy. So yeah, I mean, borders and boundaries are the problem, because the minute borders and boundaries come up, we are saying they are other. And those who use fear and recrimination to blame others rather than looking within are doing themselves a disservice and doing the cause of strength and hope and love and compassion a disservice. The more we build walls, the more we are on our own. The more we break down those barriers and borders and boundaries, the more we are united and strong and sharing in each other's truths. I say this pretty much every time I do a workshop or a group. I learn as much from a workshop as the person who's arranged it and necessarily, for want of a better term, leading it, as anyone else who comes, because I try to at least engage with and listen to everyone's point of view, everyone's thoughts, everyone's take on it. And so long as we can remember to do that, we can find a way forward, even if we come from completely different viewpoints where we completely disagree on something. So long as I can understand the reason why you feel that way, I can engage with that conversation and at least have a way of saying, in that case, this is why I think like I do, and we can find some common ground, commonality. But there are those, my friends, out there who don't want us to do that.
No,
it is a battle. This constant distraction from being us and being together. That's the fight that we have to fight, not each other.
Yeah. There are those about who don't want to hear that opposite side. So you may challenge on something and say, is that right? Is that, come on, give me a bit more. And they'll shut you down or delete your comments or whatever it is. And you think, so you just want to be able to speak your opinion. And this is where I was going earlier with the Facebook thing. Speak your opinion. That's fine, but be prepared to defend it.
Yeah.
Be prepared to rationalize it and tell me why you're thinking like that.
Yeah.
Because if I don't understand it, we can't come to any sort of middle ground. If you don't speak to me or us or anybody, you can't find that middle ground and that way forward where you both enrich each other's lives.
Yeah. I mean, this comes to potentially a very dangerous subject, but I feel obliged because it's something I've been thinking about a lot. And it seems that we as a country tend to emulate a lot themes from across the Atlantic. And one of those that is becoming more and more prevalent in the United Kingdom that has already got its foot well and truly under the table in America is the idea of left and right. You know, when I was growing up, the idea that left could be militant was completely alien to me. To me, left was lovey-dovey, kindness, compassion, peace, love. So there's no way that concept could be hardline and militant. Sadly, I was a fool because it can be.
Yeah.
But when you look at a country whose one of their literal catchphrases is "one nation under God," and yet they are tearing themselves apart on, "Oh, you soft liberal lefties, oh, you hardline nasty righties." You know, there is not one nation anymore. It is a clearly defined division between left and right. The biggest problem I find with that, especially now that it is showing up an awful lot over here, is that it's so bloody untrue. There are very, very few people who are absolutely left, and there are very, very few people who are absolutely on the extreme of right. Most people are somewhere down the middle, and on one topic they might swing this away, and on another they might swing that away, but most of us sit in as an object at rest somewhere in the middle. And the more we feel the need to be and to give attacks to people for their views, we are no longer walking the path of unity. We are no longer, as that wonderful prayer that Spirit gave me the other day say, we are no longer bearers of unity. We are those that are standing on the periphery trying to pull people the opposite directions. Most people just want to live their lives, get on with their lives, and be happy. And by using extreme tactics, both sides these days have started playing the devil's play. I've got to say it, as much as I hate the phrase, they're playing from the devil's playbook.
Yeah.
Most people just want to forget about the rubbish and live a life.
Yeah.
And so, can we please, all those that want to live, love, and be happy, just think about this for a second. This is going to be an option. I'm not telling you you've got to do it. I don't work like that. But here's an option. Screw left, screw right, walk your own path, and love each other. How complicated is that?
It's what the book says. It's what all the faith books I've read say. Just be nice. Just stop being a clerk. You know?
I apologise for that monologue. I will now shut up for a minute and catch up with the messages again.
Yeah. Chrissy Wheatley, life has been hard the last 25 years, but I've learned a few things. Reach out to people, open up, talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about your problems. It's okay to say, I'm not okay. It's okay to say, feeling a bit rough at the minute, not having a good time. I've learned to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hello, Norma, by the way.
Oh, yes. I did see a waving hand going up the screen. Eddie was a union leader. And one of
my dad was a union rep. But I'll be honest with you, I think the definitions of those terms have changed a lot in the last 30, 40 years. You know, because I grew up in the 80s where left was, you know, champion. There would be this. Maybe it was because I was younger and I didn't see it, but I feel the definition of left and right has evolved on its own. I don't think that we can. I don't think that we can any longer use those terms in the ways that they were originally used. I mean, if we go back to America, once upon a time, the Republican Party was the liberal organization, and the Democratic Party was the slightly more hardline right-hand side.
Yeah.
You know, but at some point, I think it was around about the time of just after Abraham Lincoln, I actually think it switched. And now Republicans are right wing and Democrats are left wing. But I just don't understand why we can tear ourselves apart based on a belief of how to move forward, because the idea is to bloody move forward. Sorry.
No, that was just the top comment. I read Eddie's comment as unicorn leader. I prefer that. Go out and buy a unicorn.
Eddie, darling, is there something you haven't told me, sweetie?
Yes, Kaza. Yes, Kaza's comment needs to be on screen, I think.
That
it's not
one.
about Nick, but when people choose not to listen and don't want any help, what can you do apart from be there? Yeah. Yeah.
Cherry Ann's got Eddie started.
Yes.
I lead the unicorn revolt. But you know what? This is what I love about our. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to put that up there so quickly.
But I like it.
But I like it. You know, this is the thing. We all have very different views who come on here and who involve, you know, but we can jump from being really, really serious and banging the drum with it to having a right old laugh. And I've got to share. I please forgive me, Tony. I've got to share the words that you used just before I hit the live button, because that's what they've done. Your words were, "Come on, let's go on, and let's see if they can cheer us up."
Yeah, I did. I forgot about that. Yeah, Nick and I have both had a really rough few weeks, and we've gone through stuff, and we've yeah. Anyway, and the spirit energies have been really weird, and I'm sure everybody's noticed that it's all been a bit bizarre. And I just said to Nick, "Oh, come on, let's go on, and let's see if they can drag us out of the doldrums." And you have in spades.
Absolutely. As Eunice says, how to lighten the mood in one easy lesson. And that's the thing though, because Mum's just said you can't take a horse to water, and instantly my head is, but you can have a unicorn fart sprinkles.
Fart and sparkles.
Fart and sparkles. Fart and sparkles.
We went to see John Barrowman, and he said, "If you can't tell I'm gay, I fart sparkles." No, I'm farting sparkles.
Fart and sparkles. I love that. And you know what? This is the thing. By walking the path together and sharing our thoughts and ideas, both in the communication channel down on the left of our screen, by the two of us having that interaction, we've gone from being slightly subdued, dare I say, even a little bit grumpy, to talking about unicorns farting sparkles. You know, and that's in just under an hour.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
What's that a reply to? New McDonald's meal.
Where is the
reply to Sherry Ann?
I think that was to do with the unicorn leader. I think.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
But this is absolutely the point. In all the difficulty, in all the trial, there is something other than walking a mile in someone else's shoes that can be of benefit, and I always go back to it, is humour and laughter and upliftment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that there is always
the fart and sparkles meal.
The fart and sparkles meal. What's the toy gonna be? A little unicorn, you pull its tail and a little bubble comes out.
Sparkly bubble. Oh, yes, yes. Yes. We both wear dog collars, but at the end of the day, you're human. And
yeah. Oh dear.
And I think Chrissy's comment there is what's happened here you can only be there to listen and encourage and to open up. If they feel they trust you, then they will chat. It's building that trust, and that's what we've
Yeah.
done. We've built a little spiritual family on a
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And trust is only built by being authentically yourself.
it is. It is. How many times have you had an encounter with somebody and thought, no, they weren't being
Yeah.
open, they weren't being honest?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know that really is so important. You know, I mean, like I said, I was feeling a little bit grumpy today, but just by interacting with people, by seeing a different view, a different perspective, and seeing how people interact with each other in terms of conversation and how people interact with me and each other, it just reminds you that, in the words of Londo Malari, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be that bad.
No, no. And Eddie, I think mine and Nick's have been broken for a while now.
What's that? Filter. Oh yeah. Filters. Yeah, absolutely.
That filter that links the brain to the gob, it's just
Yes. And mum's made a very valid point, because quite often after a demo, we'd go to Mackie D's. So maybe that's now off the menu, just on the off chance.
I think if they put that meal on, I will be there for one.
Yeah.
I need to try the fart and sparkles. But no, no, seriously, guys, thank you. You have put me in a much better headspace than I was when we came on here.
Yes, completely agree. And yet, you know what? I absolutely agree with that too, Chris. A lot of people can be so artificial and judgmental.
Yeah.
I don't think it does Spirit any favors. I don't think it does the work any favors, and it doesn't help people because, in actual fact, I think I might have said this at some point in the last 24 hours, and I apologise to whoever it was. I can't remember. You know, people will be able to smell a rat if you sit there and say, "Oh, darling, yes, I totally understand what you're going through." People know by your expression and by your tone whether you have or not,
Mm-hmm.
and they will smell a rat. So if you haven't, doesn't mean to say you can't help. Just be honest about it.
Yeah.
But people will know the authenticity of what it is that you're saying. As Kaz there's just put, when you wear a mask and breathe. Oh no, that's not quite. That would teach me for reading things out before. That's not what I was talking about. Although, to be fair, it is as well. So
I know. I think what you were going to say was when you wear a mask, you're not presenting your authentic self to the world.
that's correct.
Yes. You've got to take off the mask and be vulnerable yourself to actually help.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is absolutely what I was saying.
Yeah, not what I was saying.
No. Although what I will say is I have just been playing with my art creation software, and I would like to give a world exclusive. I can't believe I'm doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, the Independent Spiritualists Alliance, Farting Sparkles Unicorn.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is amazing.
Oh, I will download that, and I will share it. I will share it, and yeah, you're probably right. Your answer was more better, but yes, we now have our own little unicorn.
We need an animated one.
I can use the same software I made it with. I can animate it.
Oh, fabulous.
So
Um,
I'll see what I can come up with.
I think Chrissy's comment is quite an important one. I know we were sort of on a wind down, but I think it's important to pick that up. People will always remember the bad things you've done, but never remember the amazing things you've done just to make you look terrible. I don't think it is just to make you look terrible. I know you haven't put that in there, but I think it's sometimes the bad things are easier to remember than the good.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I think that's an important point to pick up, because people will always throw the bad things at you. Oh, do you remember when you did that, you nasty person? And not the times you've picked them up, dusted them off, put a plaster on the knee and a wet towel on their head and sent them on the way.
Yeah, it's a principle that that we were very much aware of in retail, and ironically, it was part of the training program for customer service at BP. You can do a good job day in, day out, just getting on with it, being your normal, authentic self, and you can serve 1,000 people a day really, really well, and nobody ever talks about it. But you screw up just once and everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, and they're straight on the phone to corporate.
Straight on the phone to corporate. And here's the thing, if you do a good job, that individual might have just expected it, not even noticed it. But you do a bad job and they'll go out and tell 12 people.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And we as human beings need to shift our perspective so that we actually start thinking about people who do a good job do deserve a pat on the back and the world telling that they're great. I mean, I had an experience, ironically, in McDonald's. The customer service was amazing. The attitude of the individual who served me was absolutely brilliant. And I was just so inspired. I wrote to their head office and said what a great team they were, and in particular that young man who served me. It was awesome. It was awesome. But people will be very keen to jump on the I must go and complain. But how often do we actually write to head office of an organisation and say those people did well? If we are as inspired to critique, we should be as inspired to compliment.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
On that note, I agree with Kaza. Eunice, unicorn t-shirts.
Maybe for a Christmas special.
Christmas special. We'll see how the video of that little darling goes first. Yeah. Eunice says bad news travels fast. Absolutely agree with that.
The bad things invoke more reaction to remember.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I think you should just avoid all people at all times. Life is easier. Life is better, sorry.
Lessons are normal and memorable. And then, of course, there we are. There's that wonderful... that's definitely going in a Christmas cracker. Especially at Christmas. I've got fond memories of wonderful family Christmases with my grandmother stabbing my grandfather in the arm with a fork. So that one would definitely be appropriate for a cracker in my family. We didn't do our Christmas panto. No, I was talking about doing a Christmas panto at one point, but that never came off. Ironically, there is an adult panto in Littleport this weekend. Actually, tonight.
We've had one in Rotherham and Sheffield.
Yes.
Cinderella with a S-I-N, Dorella.
But don't you think that's their job, Nick? Good, polite work and not serve with a mood. Yes, it is. Absolutely, I agree, it is. But when you, and I can speak from personal experience here, we are human beings, all of us, and we all have our problems and difficulties and pains and burdens. And we can't, none of us, I think, can completely separate a bad day as we go into something like customer service.
No.
And I know a number of people. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you. I worked with a lady who was diagnosed with a terminal illness. She came in every day with a song and a smile. She was uplifting, she was upbeat, she was brilliant. But just one day the pain was too much. And she said, "Can I please leave the room?" And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" She says, "If I don't leave the room now, I'm going to start getting grumpy with customers." We can't always be that self-aware. And I think if we were to praise as much as we critique, because working in the public line of sight is not easy. And when it comes to working in retail, people have a certain expectation. And quite often, people who work in retail get blamed for things that are beyond their remit. I saw one team member in a local shop. There's been a logistics problem. I think it's been national, but there's been a logistics problem with a certain brand of retailer. And I stood in a queue behind 7 people, and every single individual who went up to that counter asked that member of staff the same question: "Why haven't you got anything on that shelf?" Now, there's signs on the shelf. It's not like it's 1 or 2 items missing. It's everything. And they were, "Why have you not got anything on that shelf? Can't you go and check for me?" There was a queue building up behind me. There was that queue in front of me. But I could hear 7 people back the conversation. And every single time is, "Really sorry, it's a logistics problem. There's nothing we can do right now, but there is nothing out the back." 7 times he said that to me. And by the time he got to me, you could see it was wearing thin.
Mm.
And I just said, "Don't worry, dear, you don't have to state the obvious with me. I'll have one of those and one of those, please." And there was just this overwhelming look of relief in his face. And then he looked over my shoulder and saw another 12 people in the queue. It's hard to be that calm. It's hard to be that balanced, and it's hard to be that steady. And to be fair, working in retail is good training for ministry.
Yes.
Because it feels like you are repeating yourself, sharing that message, and always trying to be as positive as you possibly can in spite of it all. So, yes, to an extent, I completely agree that is people's jobs. But does that not deserve some acknowledgement?
Yeah.
Because we're keen to. Don't get me wrong, I am. I'm keen to kick off and say, "Look, that was out of order. You shouldn't have done that." But equally, if people do a good job for not the best possible wage in the universe, then we do really need to celebrate those successes as much as we would chastise the negatives, because that will inspire them to continue doing it and not be worn down. And
Yeah.
we have to apply that to life.
Exactly. And yes, it is hard. Sometimes before a dem, I'm thinking, oh, I've got banging headache. Life's crap. But you've got to get up there and just smile and yeah, like Kaz has just put, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt.
Yeah.
You've just got to, and it doesn't hurt every now and again just to say to somebody, "Thank you for that."
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm quite well known in my local shops because what you see is what you get, and I'm just as in actual fact, when there's not a camera pointed at me 2 feet away, I'm probably a little bit worse. And I might not have worded "farting sprinkles unicorn" in the same quite way. Probably a little bit more blunt. but I always thank them for everything they do. I'm always polite to them. I'm always understanding. So, have you got this? No, I'm really, really sorry. It's all right. I know it's not on you. I know it's not on you. But the thing about putting in a negative, I'm loving it. Me too, Kazza. You know, in terms of those comments and those feedbacks, when you make a complaint about someone in a business environment, let's say, for instance, retail, it goes to the complaints department. That gets fed across to an area manager and down to a store. So it goes through about half a dozen people. And depending on the severity, it can go up levels too. Here's the thing, it's the same process for the positive feedback. It is the same process for the positive feedback. Those higher ups find out just how good their people are by those positive comments as well. And you know what? I actually will say this in credit to organizations in particular that I've worked for. They shout more about the successes than they do the failures. They will deal with and act appropriately to the failures, but they will sing and they will shout and they will be encouraging other people and using those people as an example. And I think that's important, because that's how we make the world a better place, by celebrating the successes, by sharing the joys.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna give everybody another little mission. If you receive something wonderful and brilliant and kind, feed it back. Go on to the websites, go on to their head offices, write your letters, praise people for doing a good job, because it will be 10 times better and 10 times more widespread. We can make peace happen. It's not impossible.
No.
We can build bridges, we can unite people by praising as much as chastising, by celebrating successes as much as mourning our defeats. And I think if we can be that way, the world would just be a little bit easier.
I completely agree with you, Nick. I think, and that's how change happens. Small steps,
Yeah.
and one person at a time. That's how we make a change. We change the world by one person at a time, one smile at a time.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of incidents that I'm reminded of. There was somebody decided not to go through the customer service line with BP, and wrote to I can't remember his surname, but his first name's Bob. He wasn't even boss of BP Shopping Express Limited. He was boss of BP UK, when they were two kind of like separate entities. They received something positive in the store I was working in, and they wrote to him.
Wow.
And do you know what? He wrote to the store and included the letter.
Wow.
And our store manager, Wendy, she pinned that onto that board for everyone to see. And that store was buzzing for weeks.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
It really does make a difference. And I always say, if somebody's a bit off with you, a bit grumpy with you, you don't know their life. You don't know what has happened
Yeah.
to them. It might be they've gone through some really tough SH1T.
Yes.
And you need to give and take. Like we said before, Nick, Tony Bow coming up.
There
It's
it
about
is.
giving and taking. It's about the compromise. It's about, yes, that maybe wasn't the best customer service I've had in the world, but hey, is it life changing? Is it life ending? Is it life threatening?
Yeah.
Let's take things in perspective. I'm all for, if you've not received the service you think you should have, say it, but there are ways and means of saying it.
Mm.
And I hate the phrase, because I know some lovely Karens, but you don't have to be a Karen about it.
Mm.
You know,
That's why we've got a Kazza, not a Karen, at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. It's so easy to just blow your stack and demand, and I want to speak to your manager. Just say,
Yeah.
this soup actually isn't. We did it in McDonald's again.
Yeah.
The other day. Actually, these chips are absolutely freezing. Do you mind just swapping them? Because I can't eat that. And she did pick a chip up and she went, "Oh God, I'm so sorry," and took it away. And we got fresh piping hot chips. So yeah, ways and means, people. Ways and means.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I will confess. I will confess that I've been there too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you are still riding a little bit, knowing that there is somebody at least out there that appreciates you.
Yeah.
You know.
And Diane, kindness costs nothing.
Absolutely. So, my friends, I do apologise. We're not going to keep going on until 7. I've got
I really
bunny
can't.
rabbit to feed. So we are coming close to the end of our time. But I think the general theme of today is go out there and fart like a unicorn, my friends, and sparkle the world with love.
Yeah. Sparkles.
Yes. Spread your sparkles. I will post our little unicorn souvenir of today onto the Facebook pages, and I will see if I can animate him or her, whichever it prefers.
It's a they them.
It could be a they them. Absolutely. Going to say there's a bit of yellow in there as well, so it doesn't necessarily. Although to be fair, I love a bit of pink too.
Karen's distraught.
I know. At least you got the full half an hour this week, because we have had things on the Friday nights as well when we've been on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're back to our full time episodic level, and thanks to all of you guys at home, back to our state of cleanliness too.
Yes. And Chrissy, no, not Chrissy, Tracy. Goodbye and thank you for making me smile. No, thank you, because like I said, we were
the same. Yeah.
We were a bit down in the doldrums before Nick clicked the go live button.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not now.
And I know Cherry has been a bit poorly today as well. So healing your way, my love.
Oh, bless
you. There we go. I keep. Thank you, Mother. I completely agree, and I embrace that. And Eddie's off for a curry. Kazza love pink. And yes, Norma, a sparkling weekend to you all.
Oh, thank you, Mama Brown. We love you too.
Bless you. From everyone here to everyone out there, have a wonderful weekend. Go out and be happy, be uplifting, and bring smiles and sparkle farts wherever you go. So it's good night from him.
And it's good night from him. Good night.